The episode begins with a recitation of Lu Mingfei's attributes. He's an S rank, on option of the Sky Eye Global Rescue System. A female voice welcomes Lu Mingfei back. A security man in a train station talks to a boy loaded with bags and calls him a beggar. The boy is upset and points out that he only wants to ask the man where the CC line is. He tells the security guard to take a look at his train card. The security guard tells him that he has never heard of that train line before and offers to contact the embassy of the boy's country to provide him with a room and transportation. The boy is upset at what the security guard is implying. The man walks away, and the boy yells after the man and tells him that he is not a beggar and that he has money with him, even if it is not much. The boy goes ahead to blame himself for believing a woman's nonsense talk. A woman had given the boy directions to go to the subway station at the airport with all his luggage and wait at the CC line, which would take him straight to Castle College. He tries to get food first before continuing his search, but nobody attends to him because they all think he's a beggar. Some other men call out to him, thinking he's also a beggar like them, but he yells at them that he is not a beggar and he has money. They beg him for money and he yells that he is poor and has no money. He comes face to face with a guy who laughs at him and asks him if that's how he talks to people in China. He speaks Japanese to the guy and the guy calls him out on it. The guy introduces himself as Finger von Frings and asks to borrow some money for coke. The guy sees a black card in the boy's hands and recognizes that he is from Castle College. Finger tells the boy that they are brothers, and the boy thinks he's making things up to beg for food. Finger brings out his own Castle College black card and shows the boy, who introduces himself as Lu Mingfei, and tells Finger that he is a freshman from China and collects Mingfei's money. Finger tells Mingfei that he has been repeating classes for 4 years. Mingfei asks if Finger has taken the CC line before, and Mingfei tells him that hidden routes depart at irregular times. He tells him about the location of their school and how pickup times depend on your ranking. Lu Mingfei muses that if Finger is in his 8th year in college, then his rank must be really low. Finger dozes off as they wait for the train and leaves Mingfei to his thoughts. Mingfei also sleeps, and he has a dream of a burning school and people leaping off the cliffs. When he wakes, Finger is nowhere to be found, but there is an open portal beside him. A well-dressed boy tells him that the bells are ringing to take a look at the past and asks Mingfei if he is ready. He tells Mingfei some more things and looks right at Mingfei, and suddenly Mingfei bursts into flames. It turns out to be a dream, and Mingfei is woken by Finger's shouting and a mad dash to get to the train. An eerie man makes a boarding announcement for the CC train, and Mingfei is stumped. He thinks the man is a zombie or a ghost. The man approaches Finger, and they have a friendly conversation about how Finger's rank has dropped again. Lu Mingfei runs over to them and introduces himself to the man. The man erupts in surprise and fanboys over Mingfei. He lets slip Mingfei's rank, and Finger also erupts in surprise. The man explains to Mingfei that an ascertained professor was meant to pick him up but could not make it because he had an urgent assignment. Finger informs Mingfei that because of his rank, he only needed to swipe his card and the college would have sent the train for him alone. Mingfei is horrified by this and swipes his card just to test out the theory. The train announces his arrival, and the three make their way to the platform. The conductor uses his Yanling to get the extras on the platform to welcome Lu Mingfei. The train arrives, and an elderly professor jumps out, hugs Mingfei, and cries. The train departs the station, and the professor tells Mingfei that they will have their final counseling session before enrollment on the train. He sends Finger away and makes Mingfei sign a non-disclosure agreement for the counseling session. The professor tells Mingfei about the school and its system, telling him that the main subject of study in the school is dragons. He asks Mingfei what he knows about dragons and then explains things to Mingfei. He tells him that Cassell trains their students to be dragon slayers. Mingfei thinks that the professor is a nutcase and Cassell College is a mental institution. The boy from his dream appears to him again and assures him that the professor is telling the truth. Mingfei asks the boy if he boarded the train with them. The boy says that he is also a passenger on the train. Mingfei remarks that the boy talks like a ghost, and the boy tells him that if he is a ghost, all that he has heard from the professor is a ghost story. He tells Mingfei to look out of the windows and welcomes him to the Dragon Kingdom. He explains the history of the Dragon Raja to Minfei as they walk across the dreamscape. Mingfei wakes on the couch and the professor tells him he fell unconscious during the counseling. Mingfei and the professor have a back-and-forth conversation about fear and mental illness, and are interrupted by a man bringing something in. The two men show Mingfei artifacts from the ice cave to help him overcome his unbelief in dragons and other related things. They give him a gun and tell him to shoot at a dragon scale. The bullet bounces off the scale and Mingfei remains unimpressed until they show him a hatchling. Mingfei looks at the hatchling and it wakes up and tries to get out. The professor praises Mingfei and he almost passes out. The professor herds him out for some fresh air. where they talk about what will happen if he decides to drop out. The professor tells Mingfei that the real world is imaginably vast, and that compared to the real world, the world he knows is like a grain of rice in an open field. He welcomes him to Cassell College. The professor tells Mingfei that the college's research has shown that a lot of dragons are sleeping in China, so the college decided to make learning Chinese obligatory for all the students. He tells Mingfei that all the students should go deep into China to kill the Dragon Kings. Mingfei asks why there is no student in sight. The professor is alarmed by this fact, and a siren blares. Mingfei thinks the siren is an air raid alert. Something starts shooting at Mingfei and the professor, and they run for cover. Mingfei asks what it is, and the professor explains that it is the student president, Caesar Gattuso. He tries to explain in more detail but is hit by a bullet. Mingfei sees students running around in battle gear and shooting at each other, and he is shocked, confused, and very close to panicking. There are two teams, red and black. As Mingfei sits cowering, bodies litter the courtyard of the school. He hears the students talk about casualties on both sides and battle strategies. He decides to try and find a doctor for his professor. The leaders of the two teams meet each other in the courtyard and start a vicious sword fight. They are impossibly fast and seem exceptionally skilled. Mingfei watches them and thinks about the names of their swords when a girl dressed in red lands in front of him. He calls out to her and she swiftly swings around and points a gun at his head. He panics and she tells him to get down. She shoots over his head at a girl carrying a sniper rifle. The girl remarks that the shot was pretty good, but too slow. The girl in red is shot by the girl in black. As Mingfei is freaking out, the girl in black calls out to Caesar and tells him that the black team has won. Mingfei sees the boy again. The boy asks him if they will be punished for their sins and offers to help him. While the girl is waving to Chu Zihang to tell him they have won, Mingfei picks up the gun and shoots her. He also aims at Caesar and shoots him too. He shoots at Zihang as well, and then walks away and sits with his back to the pillar. Just then, trumpets start blaring and he is surprised. He sees girls dressed as medics running into the scene, and he makes to surrender. They separate the wounded and attend to them. A bald man walks up to him and talks to himself about how students do not prioritize their schoolwork anymore, and complains about the cost of the war games. He sees Mingfei and talks to him. He asks him if he thinks war games are fun, and yells at him to grow up. The man is Professor Manstein, and Mingfei's professor is awake and talks to him. He tells him about Professor Manstein. Mingfei realizes who is talking to him and tries to exorcise the other professor's ghost. Professor Manstein tells him that the man is alive, and Mingfei thinks he's a zombie. The professor explains that he is not dead and that day is the day of liberty. He explains that on Liberty Day, students are free to do as they please, and that the bullets used contain powerful sedatives and leave fake bloodstains. He demonstrates to Mingfei and ends up knocking himself out in the process. Mingfei looks across the courtyard and sees students walking around. Professor Manstein gets annoyed with the students once again. Caesar and Zihang walk to where Professor Manstein and Mingfei are standing. Zihang lists the rules of the game to Manstein. Manstein gets upset and calls the principal to report the students to him. Caesar talks casually with the principal and Manstein is aghast. The students are amused and riled up. The principal asks to speak to Lu Mingfei. He commends him for knocking down Caesar and Chu Zihang and tells him he looks forward to seeing him in class. Manstein advises him to hurry to the dormitory before he dies. All the students are looking at him with murder in their eyes. The principal talks with a man called Mance about a setback from 8 years before where the whole army got wiped out. The principal says he has been thinking about it and says that what they need in the war against dragons may not be an army, but a prodigy. They discuss Lu Mingfei and the Hills operation, which is billed to start the next day. They talk about the point of their mission getting close to the person and not waking up the King of Bronze and Fire. In the dormitory, Lu Mingfei admires his room and finds out that Finger is his roommate. Finger congratulates him on his first day win, but Mingfei complains about the way people look at him. Finger informs him that he is the object of hatred of both the Student Union and the Lionheart Society. Finger takes him on a tour of the Castle College campus. He shows him all the different buildings in the school. Mingfei says he cannot believe that the students in the college are dragon slayers, and Finger explains that their Yanling powers are suppressed. He shows him the clock tower and tells him that Manstein's father lives there, and his yanking covers the whole school. Mingfei asks what Yanling is, and Finger takes him to a place where he can learn about Yanling. They witness a display of power, and Mingfei spots a strange tree after walking through a strange dimension. Mingfei spots the half-alive, half-dead tree and stares at it in wonder, while Finger scolds someone for not being able to control their Yanling. He asks Finger what he is looking at, and Finger tells him it is the statue of the World Tree. Finger tells him that legend says that the Black Emperor Nidhogg was defeated under the tree, and so the college made the statue, and the statue is the symbol of Cassell College. Mingfei looks spellbound. Just then, Professor Guderian runs up to him and tells him that from the looks of it, he should be able to understand Yanling. He orders him back to the dorm to conduct a test. In the dorm, Professor Guderian hands Mingfei his student ID and informs him of a test on the draconian tongue the next day. He tells Mingfei to sit so he can evaluate his rank and his bloodline in action. Guderian is using a music box with draconic text from the Black Dragon Emperor Nidhogg. The paragraph of dragon speak contains the origins of all Yanling and its effect ranked first in the list of Yanling. Even after Guderian's explanation, Mingfei still does not understand anything and panics. Guderian reassures him and starts the test. The tape plays, and Guderian translates it. He asks Mingfei how the test went, but Mingfei says the test made him sleepy. Professor Guderian calls him a first-class mutant, and says the human genes in him have overwhelmed the dragon genes in him, which make him perfectly immune to Imperium's coercion. Mingfei brings up the possibility that he is just ordinary. Guderian says that it is impossible unless, and then runs out of the room. Mingfei turns to Finger for help, but he is halfway across the room, typing furiously on his computer. Mingfei asks him what he is doing, and he says he is spreading the news of Mingfei's immunity to coercion. Mingfei sighs and Finger asks him what is up with him. Mingfei tells Finger that he feels like his journey was a dream. He says that if he fails the 3E exam, he'll be brainwashed and sent back home. Finger asks him if he wants to go back. Mingfei thinks about what is waiting for him at home. Finger asks him if he minds cheating, and Mingfei answers that he does not mind cheating. Finger tells him to cheat the system and offers him a question bank. Mingfei offers him food as compensation. Caesar addresses the student union. He tells them that since they lost the Day of Liberty games, they have lost the right to use the Norton Pavilion, so this is their last meeting there. The students argue that they didn't lose. Caesar says that only cowards refuse to admit their failures. He says that Lionheart is silent, which implies that Chu Zihang also accepts the results. Nono gets a notification from the campus news network. She tells Caesar about Mingfei not resonating with the Imperium Yanling. The news goes round school. Guderian runs to Monstein. He tells Monstein that he thinks Lu Mingfei is someone. Monstein and Guderian end up in the library to study the Ice Sea Scrolls and the story of the Great White Emperor, who cleaned his bloodline and freed them from bowing to Nidhogg. They talk about the rebellion and the fact that the White Emperor's bloodline was buried with him. They muse about the soul of the White Emperor and think that if Lu Mingfei is his descendant, they should research him. Guderian says that whether he is the blood of the White or Black Emperors, it is important that the weight of his ancestry not fall on his shoulders. Manstein asks him if he wants to protect Mingfei. He says yes, and Manstein replies that they want to train a warrior and not a good kid. He tells Guderian to write a truthful report. Guderian says he does not want his recruit to become a research specimen. Manstein promises not to say a word to anyone until Mingfei takes the 3E test. Manstein says that if Mingfei does not pass the test, he will write a truthful report and advocate for him to be treated as humanely as possible. Someone activates the EVA personality program and asks her to let Lu Mingfei pass the 3E test to help confirm the doubts about him. The next day, Mingfei runs down the hall as he is late to his test. He opens the door and sees Nono, who tells him he's late. The professor comes in right behind him and tells the class the rules. Mingfei's paper has a different name on it, and he smiles at it. The 3E test begins, and all the doors and windows are locked. Their test papers are blank, and Mingfei remembers what Finger told him about the 3E test. He looks across the room and sees a girl. The Dragon Speak recording begins. Mingfei begins to copy the answers and sees the other students acting out. The girl beside him is calm, writing down answers. The professor talks to Nono and recalls that she was calm during her 3E test. She says that she had already had a soul vision by that time and she tells him about it. The boy appears to Mingfei and tells him to come. Mingfei goes to him and introduces himself to the boy. The boy says his name is Mingze. He remembers his cousin, and the boy yells to him that this is his soul vision. They talk while falling through different landscapes. Mingze begins to cry and the scene changes. They sit in a field. He opens his eyes to find Nono looking at him. She tells him he slept through the exam and he drew 9 answers instead of 8. She tells him not to be worried. Finger tells him welcome and that Norma published his results on the school's webpage. They talk about Mingfei's course selection list, and Finger tells him about Professor Mance's class and his mission. The story cuts to Professor Mance's team in a storm looking for the resting place of the water dragon. A couple is in the water looking for the dragon. They send out void snakes, but there is an earthquake developing. The void snakes detect metal, and Mance calls them back to the surface, but they cannot be brought back up. Professor Mance is devastated. Ye Sheng and Akinrwatch out to him through the void snake to let him know they have found the gate. Professor Mance reports to the principal that the mission is going well, and that Ye Sheng and Aki have found a city made entirely of bronze that fits the description of the Palace of Norton, the King of Bronze and Fire. They intend to explore it and posit that the city is still alive. The principal gives Mance his permission to destroy any living things in the city. Mance asks the principal for his authorization to use the key. The principal approves, and they use a baby. The key is a baby. Mance explains to his assistant who the King of Bronze and Fire was, and how dragons treated humans in the past. He says that they have never tried to communicate with a dragon, but that day may be the perfect opportunity for them to do so. Mance dives deep underwater with the key to meet Aki and Yaisheng. He replaces their lifelines and uses his Yanling to create a vacuum barrier. They find a cursed firewater, and Mance explains that fire was poured into him. Then he was burned alive, but his body didn't collapse and turned into ashes after death. Then he turned into charcoal and now kneels. His soul is still in his tomb, and intruders will be cursed by his terror. He opens the box and the key is activated. She touches her finger to the gatekeeper, and her blood flows into its mouth. It produces a key from its tongue. Mance takes it out and places it in its eye. A mouth opens. The key begins to cry, and Mance has to return to the surface. He tells Yisheng and Aki that they have 2 hours to retrieve the skeleton of the Dragon King or destroy him. He tells them to destroy anything they can't bring out and to come back alive. Yisheng and Aki dive into the city. Mance gets to the surface and directs the mission from there. He tells Norma to scan the city. She gives intel on the bronze tunnels of the city. Yisheng and Aki find a bronze pillar and split up there. Mance tells Aki to check the top of the pillar. She finds dragon speak, which might have been written by the Dragon King himself. They try to back up the documents, and it begins to affect Aki, who cuts the lifeline. Yisheng finds her in time, and they speak. They go on a mission to collect bronze materials to take back to the college. As Aki touches one, a shadow figure comes awake and starts attacking her. She tells Yisheng to shoot it, and then she wakes up from her trance. She reveals that she became a statue's puppet because she observed dragon speak. Yisheng notices that her lifeline has been cut. She asks him what is on his back. He tells her that the thing on his back is what his missing void snake found. It is a bone recipient with a Mobius ring pattern, which means a simple pattern of life and death in dragon speak. He says that if a dragon king is sleeping in it, it is a baby, and they should take it back with them. Just then, the walls begin to rearrange themselves, and they run for the exit. Yisheng thinks that when Aki touched the statue, it restarted the city, and now the city is aware of intruders. Lu Mingfei wakes up when he hears bells ringing. Mingzi tells him that it is the death knell. He is transported to the top of the bell tower, and they talk about the real world. Mingzi tells Mingfei that he is there to remind him that the death knell is ringing. Someone is dying, and he is about to get into trouble. Mingfei asks if it is a dragon invasion or the end of the world. Mingzi tells him to be prepared. He asks Mingfei if he remembers the cheat codes in his game and asks him which he would choose if he had to choose one of them. Mingzi tells him Norma can track him, and he answers Mingzi's question by choosing the Black Sheep Wall, a cheat code that unravels the map. Mingzi tells him to use the spell to unravel the secret. He tells him that the more he uses it, the more he finds that everyone needs a map, because they're all in the woods. He tells him to remember, and then walks out. Mingfei wakes up to Finger yelling in his face about the alarm. The alarm calls high-ranking students to the library. Nono reminds Finger of his ranks, and he runs away in shame. Students rush to the library and are seated at rows of computers. The students have been summoned to find a way out for Yisheng and Aki, who are trapped in the Dragon Kingdom ruins. They get a briefing about the Palace of Norton, the King of Bronze and Fire, and are asked to solve the logic of the place. The professors show them pictures of the place and tell them they have 20 minutes to save their friends. Mingfei swipes his student card and meets EVA. He stares at his monitor. Mingfei remembers the Black Sheep Wall cheat and tries it, but everywhere becomes blank. Mingfei solves the escape path and falls out of his chair. Aki and Yisheng are still in harm's way, but Mance sends them the interpretation. The college sends the interpretation message over to Mance and his crew. Mance sends the message to Yisheng and Aki, but they are unable to analyze it. Aki rescues Yisheng and tries to get in touch with Mance. Yisheng gets Mance to get Key to read the map. He tells them to go straight down through the canals and come out directly below the city, just like the 8 diagrams. Mance asks how much oxygen Ali and Yisheng have left and finds out they have 3 minutes of oxygen. He does his calculations and discovers that what they have left and the air they can hold is just enough to get them out of the ruins. Yisheng retrieves his void snakes to keep up his strength. Mance is excited for them to return. Aki looks sad and tells Yisheng that it's too late for them because they don't have enough oxygen. She tells them to stay until where they are gets fluted. She proceeds to confess her love to Yisheng, but he kisses her before she can get the words out. Yisheng tells her to trust him, that they have enough oxygen. He promises to get her out of that dumpster. Communication is interrupted, and Mance tells them to drop the lifeboats into the water to save Aki and Yisheng because they miscalculated their oxygen. Back at the academy, Manstein, Guderian, and the principal are concerned because communication with the execution team has been cut off for 10 minutes. They decide to wait. Lu Mingfei answers a call from his brother, who immediately catches on to the fact that Mingfei is not happy. Mingfei explains that people are in great danger, and he feels like they are about to die. His brother tells him to be more determined and pray for them. He reminds him that the world works through all kinds of energy, and his heart and prayers are part of that energy. His brother reassures him and promises to call him back later. A helicopter hovers over Mance's mission ship. The helicopter is from the Sanduping City Waterway Authority. Mance stands and waits for Aki and Yesheng. Aki hands the vase to the boat and tells them to leave her behind. She says it took Yesheng's life for her to bring it to the surface, and she floats away. Mance tries to go overboard to get to Aki, but his assistant restrains him. Aki drowns, and Mance is inconsolable. The sea erupts, and Mance gets upset. He goes back into the ship and tells them to secure the copper vase. They try to get an accurate reading of the sea creatures in the water. It is too fast for them to see, and Mance decides to kill it. He shoots at it repeatedly, but it keeps moving. It jumps out of the water into the air and drags the helicopter down. He calls for more ammunition. He thinks that the sea creature is a dragon and is chasing the ship because of the copper vase. Mance sends out the underwater bombs. The creature eats the bombs and they explode. They speculate on what kind of creature it is. Thelma asks if it is the Dragon King. Mance replies that a Dragon King's IQ is not low enough to swallow a bomb. He tells Thelma that she has done a good job and that he will give her full credit for her internship. She thanks him, and she is speared in the chest by the creature. The creature hauls her overboard, and Mance shoots at it savagely until he is out of bullets. The creature surfaces and swims around their vessel. The dragon laughs at them. They find the bomb signal again, but Mancy stops them from detonating because they will be in danger if they do. Mancy is informed that their engine has overheated, and he tells them to confirm their location. Mancy gets them to start the engines and head for the Three Gorges Dam at full speed. The dragon is following them. Mance pours some substance on the copper vase, and it seems to affect the dragon. He threatens to destroy the vase if the dragon stops chasing them. They make it to the dam, and the dragon follows them, hot on their tails. They detonate the bombs in the dragon, and it blows it apart. One of the dragon's teeth impales Mance in the chest, and Kay closes the gate with the dragon stuck in seed. Mancy activitas his Yan Ling. Over at the school, the professors are worried that there has been no contact. The principal thanks them for their hard work and tells them that the Monish has landed safely on the reservoir. He tells them that they gained important information due to their effort. He specifically thanks Lu Mingfei, who accepts the gratitude shyly. Chu Zihang comes up to Lu Mingfei and thanks him for solving the map. Mingfei demurs, and Zihang tells him that luck is also a form of strength. Zihang officially invites Mingfei to join the Lionheart Society and tells him he should be the next president. Mingfei is shocked and refuses. Zihang says he will not force him and that Caesar should invite him to join the student union. He says if he joins the student union, it would be great to have someone like him as an opponent and friend. All the students stop in their tracks and look up. The bell tolls and doves fly around. Zihang explains that when someone dies, the bells toll and doves fly out of the church. The students kneel and place their handkerchiefs on the floor to mourn them, and they pray for them to have peace in their next life. The principal approaches Mance where he is seated and tells him a doctor will be with him soon. Mance says he wants to give his final report. He says that the dragon speak on the vase is what Norton wrote on the surface. The principal thinks that the vase contains Norton's cocoon. Mance begs the principal not to send the news of the total loss of the operation. He begs him to tell the students that he took on another mission. He tells him that he wants the kids to see that slaying dragons is the bloodiest of passions and something to give their lives for. He tells the principal to say hello to Nono for him. He says it is time to find her a new mentor. Mance is given a farewell. A photo sent by Aki was found in Mance's belongings. Mingfei gets an email from Noni inviting him to a welcome dance at the Maber Pavilion the next night. Finger tells Mingfei that Caesar also wants to chat with him. He is not surprised that the student union is after Mingfei too. Finger explains to Mingfei that Caesar wanting to chat with him means that the student union also wants Mingfei to join them. He tells Mingfei never to doubt his rank. Mingfei asks who Caesar is. Finger tells him that his full name is Caesar Gattuso, a member of a famous hybrid family whose business spans across the Western world. Caesar is the heir of the Gattuso dynasty and was named so from an early age. Finger tells Mingfei that Caesar is the future emperor of their world. Mingfei is awed. Finger tells him that Caesar's first words at the school have become a famous saying. Mingfei wonders what his first sentence was at the school. He is reminded that his first sentence was about the food in the school being good, and he cringes in embarrassment. He decides not to go to the party, and Finger draws his attention to the fact that the buffet will be very rich. Mingfei says the email says to wear formal attire, but he doesn't have any. Finger shows him the part of the email where it says they can rent formal attire from the school's drama club. On the day of the party, Finger and Mingfei look radiant, and Mingfei says it is too elegant, and he feels like he has to beg for his dinner at these kinds of events. Finger says that it is both a courtesy and a demonstration of Caesar's wealth. Finger asks Mingfei to show some dignity. A truck filled with flowers drops roses at their feet. Nono tells Ginger and Mingfei to go inside. Finger compliments Nono, but she ignores him and walks into the bed of roses to Seize, who is waiting for her. He takes her hand and leads her into the hall. Mingfei remarks that everyone in the pavilion looks ancient. Finger explains that the aesthetics of hybrids are more old-fashioned than normal people because they live long lives. The dance begins with a speech from Caesar. He thanks them for coming and wishes Nono a happy birthday. Finger gapes and is chomping at the bit too, so he drags Mingfei to the dance floor. He twirls him around and stomps in his get mercilessly. Nono tells Kisar to stop bullying Mingfei, that it will make him lose his mind and run to Leon Herrick. Caesar tells her that Chu Zihang thinks that he will also extend an invitation to Mingfei, but he has never liked people trying to guess what he is thinking. He looks at Mingfei on the dance floor. Nono compliments Caesar, and he tells her he is going to win everyone in the name of Caesar, not in the name of Gattuso. He stops the dance and makes a speech. He says that they are in the pavilion to fight, and that only the best can go to war and are qualified to protect the rest. He makes an impassioned speech about battle. He asks who they want to follow when they go to battle, and the people chant his name. Caesar says that the real elite will be seen as lunatics by the world. His speech makes the whole burst into applause. He welcomes them to the gang of lunatics, and he calls Lu Mingfei up to stand with him. He refuses, and Caesar tells him he gives him a song to consider. Nono leaves, and the mystery girl walks down from the musician's quarter and offers to dance with Mingfei. Finger pushes him to her and helps clear the dance floor for them. She tells Mingfei to keep to her rhythm, and the band plays Por una Cabeza. While they dance, the girl tells Mingfei that he can call her Zero. He thanks her for saving him, but she says she did not save him. Age was just itching to dance. As they dance, Mingfei sees a mental picture of them dancing in front of a waterfall. She tells him he needs to feel like the king of the world and to hold her waist when the song ends, or she will fall. The dance ends, and Caesar leads the applause. Mingfei gets another mental picture of both of them. She bows to him and leaves the dance floor. Nono trails after her, and he wonders where Nono is going. He runs out and sees Nono in a car. He goes up to Nono and wishes her a happy birthday. He asks her why she is leaving the party first. She says she didn't tell Caesar it was her birthday because her birthday is her business. She asks him if he can drive and tells him to drive her to the top of the mountain. He asks what is on top of the mountain, and she tells him she wants to walk around. Norma calls everyone to be alert. The school is on lockdown because there is a potential Dragon Raja invasion. The college defense system is activated. All exits are blocked, anti-air alchemist equipment is activated, and the space security satellite is activated. Bike riders ride around the school and shoot at the defense systems. Norma enters alchemic defense mode. The invaders are a 13-man squad that disperse after they enter the school. No one knows how they got in. Manstein explains that it is an invasion because of the vase the principal brought back from China. Norma explains the flaws in the security plan and tells the professors that Caesar is guarding Valhalla with the student union. Manstein says that Chu Zihang is guarding the library with Lionheart, and the rest of the campus is being guarded by agents of the Execution Bureau. Students with battle qualifications get gear to guard the school. Nono and Mingfei take the mountain road. Mingzi appears to Mingfei and tells him that there are bears on the mountain. Mingfei almost swerves off the road when he sees Mingzi. Mingzi says he came to remind Mingfei that there is a curve, otherwise he will die with the woman he likes. Mingfei denies liking Nono and tells Mingzi to get out. Mingzi points out that taking Mingfei to the mountain to play means she is not defensive about him. He reminds Mingfei that Nono is with Caesar and that she has never loved anyone in her life. Mingzi tells him about Nono's friendship with Aki and Ye Sheng. They go back and forth, and Mingzi touches Mingfei's head and unlocks something. The car goes off on its own, and Nono suggests they get out of the car. Caesar talks to Nono, while one of the intruders talks to someone outside. They are looking for the dragon vase. Norma reports that 4 of the intruders have been caught, and 6 are loitering somewhere on the campus. They ask Manstein to try to use his void snakes to find them. A phone rings. Someone calls Manstein and tells him to tell his father to lift the barrier so they can use their Yanling skills. Manstein calls his father and tells him to lift the barrier. He agrees to do so for his dear son. Nono and Mingfei are on the mountain. They cannot see the clouds because of the stars, so Nono suggests that they sit in the pond. Mingfei agrees, and Nono dips her feet in the pond. She dates Mingfei to join her, and he wastes no time. They laugh at each other, and he asks her if she is okay. She tells him not only did Aki and Ye Sheng die, but that Mance also died. She tells him that Mance was her direct mentor and that the execution bureau did not tell the truth when they said he was on another mission. She explains that Mance told her that when he dies, he will break the news to her by announcing that he is on a new mission. She says the information is Mance's way of letting her know that he is dead. Mingfei asks her if she is sad. She says she is not sad, and when she dies, she will also leave a quiet message on the bulletin board saying that she's on a mission in Iceland so that those who read the news will believe it and slowly forget her. Mingfei asks her if everyone in college is as fearless as she is, and she tells him that is not the case. She says some quit after graduation, and that the people who stay all have their reasons to stay. Mingfei asks her why, and she tells him she just wanted to run away from home. She asks to change the subject, and they talk about the fireflies that show up in the summer. They talk about the school. Norma announces that the night watchman has lifted the barrier. Yanling is activated in all the students at the same time. The intruders are also able to use Yanling, and they use Shadow Field to hide themselves. They enter Valhalla. Monstein activates his void snakes to search for the intruders. Norma shows a map of the school. A boy is directed to the underground entrances of the cellar, and he goes. He jumps through the chamber and enters the cellar. He finds a door, and then gets a tip from his employer to use the black card prepared for him to enter the underground level. They tell him to go through the central mainframe control room to the lost zone. He complains that his employer always tells him half of what he needs to hear, and he goes to carry out the instructions. The black card opens the door, and the boy wonders at the simplicity of the defenses as he walks in. Caesar invokes his Dark Wind Yanling, and it enables him to see the intruders through their shadow fold. He calls Chu Zihong and tells him that the intruders are in Valhalla. He wants to make a bet with Chu Zihong on who will finish their fight first. Chu Zihong says it does not matter, and Caesar starts his fight. Over at the library, a girl asks Zihang who he is talking to, just as Norma announces that students should evacuate the library. He tells the girl to carry out the order. Chu Zihang gets a private and finger. She tells Mingfei that Caesar doesn't mean him harm, that he's just a little awkward. She tells him she knows that he was invited by Chu Zihang. She talks about the girl standing out instead of Mingfei. She teases him about being shy. Nono talks to Mingfei. She tells him that his S rank does not pose a threat to Caesar. She tells him to join the student union, and Mingfei concludes that Caesar sent Nono to him as a honey trap. He feels flattered, but he realizes that he must endure and not give in. She tells him that it is not Caesar's doing, and that she invited him herself. She tells him she wants a little brother of her own, and he asks her if Caesar's underclassmen are not hers as well. She says that she must have her people, and Caesar must have his people. She says that even though she is engaged to him, it is a political arrangement from both their families. She's still herself, regardless. Mingfei is surprised that she has a marriage contract. Nono tells him that Caesar and Zihang can take care of him, and that she can also take care of him as well. She says that no one would dare to bully her little brother. Mingfei points out that she didn't save him from the awful first dance earlier. She tells him that she is ready to save him, but Caesar holds her back. She promises him that as long as he is in danger, she will help him. He tells her not to talk as though she's been doing all the helping. He tells her that he will do anything for her, and she says it is easier said than done. Mingfei asks her what he can do for her, and she tells him she hasn't gotten her birthday present yet. He tells her that he cannot get her a birthday present on the hill. He tells her that her actual birthday presents will be in her dorm. She says those do not matter, and all that matters is a gift from one person. She says she came to the hill for that gift. She explains to Mingfei that every year on her birthday, she waits for that present, and when she gets to the hill, it means the person is still looking at her. She says she'll be happy for the rest of the year, and she'll feel like she's not alone anymore. She says she doesn't know what the person is going to get her this year. Mingfei says the flower spell and the car lights come on and fireworks are displayed across the sky. Nono is overjoyed to see this, and they both stand in the pool. Nono's name is written on the fireworks, and she says that whoever sent it did it as a gift to her. She cries and wishes herself a happy birthday. Mingfei has a vision of himself crying, and Nono talking to him. He understands that the gift was from her mother. He tells Nono that he will be her little brother from now on. She tells him she'll take care of him. The boy opens the underwater door and is immediately sucked through and lands in a chamber with a mechanical shark in it. He tries to fight the shark and it disappears underwater. He says that all his life, animals have never approached him, and now sharks are on that list. He jumps to the top of the chamber and finds his way to the Alfheim Research Institute. He realizes that it is under the Valhalla Pavilion, and he makes his way to the gate. He uses the black card to get in. The principal seals the vase in liquid nitrogen and talks to the researchers about how they now have a sample of a Dragon King. They applaud him, and the chief researcher asks when they can dissect the vase to see if there is a living being inside it. The principal does not know for sure if there is an actual living being in it, but he knows the exact period when the vase was formed. He fields questions from the researchers. He assures them that the jar is safe because the thing inside is still asleep. He explains that if its connection to bronze and fire is cut off, it'll be dormant for a long time. The boy is in the back of this room, observing the proceedings. The researchers talk about the material of the vase, and look at the MRI scan of the vase, and discover that one of the things in the vase has hatched. The principal threatens the headmaster of the research institute and orders him to retract his lasers and clear the place of people. The boy thinks it is his chance to steal the egg. He gets another hallucination. He takes some pictures of the egg first and leaves. His phone beeps at the bottom of the pool, and his employer gives a final order to open the bottle and pour the solution over the target. He abandons his mission, and the headmaster pours the solution over the egg. It explodes. Caesar is still fighting Mai, and they assess each other's battle strategies. Caesar expertly deflects her parry, and she points a gun at his head and fires. They hear the explosion and stop. They walk out and see footprints of something that burned through the walls. They talk at Lengardient, the phenomenon. There is a skip to Nono and Mingfei. She tells him to stand apart so she can make a call. She also points out that the car turned on, and Mingfei says he doesn't know how. The episode begins with Nono finally gaining a network on her mobile phone. Caesar's voicemail finally reaches her, informing her that the school is under attack. She converses with Lu Mingfei about the attack on the school and how Cassel College has experienced centuries of war against the dragons. She consoles herself that Caesar and Chu Zihang are in the school at the time of the attack. She believes by the time she returns to the school, the battle will be over. Caesar and Chu Zihang continuously fight their opponent at different locations in the school. Meanwhile, Manistine, the principal, and Gudarian are seen watching the fight going on in the school on a big screen. They conclude that Chu Zihang is stuck in a stalemate. His opponent is pulling her punches, making her control of the royal blaze better than Chu Zihang's. She wasn't trying to kill him, but to simply slow him down. An intruder approaches the gates riding on a motorcycle, attempting to escape. Gudarian calls to nearby staff to stop him from escaping. The intruder heads on, dodging all the bullets shot at him as he approaches the gates. He swerved with his bike, thanking everyone around for everything, telling them it was a joyride and that he was leaving now. Just as he completed the 360-degree motion, he was hit by Lu Mingfei and Nono's car as they just arrived at the school premises. Nono asks Lu Mi if he just hit someone, and he replies with a chuckle as the intruder collapses on the floor. Lu Mingfei tries to help him to his feet, but the intruder points a weapon at his neck, thinking Lu Mingfei is about to sneak up on him. The intruder is caught in a flashback where he remembers Lu Mingfei as his big bro. Lu Mingfei introduces himself to the intruder, now known as Old Tang. Old Tang does likewise, and they both exchange pleasantries. Old Tang informs Lu Mingfei that he came to the school to work, and Lu Mingfei is surprised, seeing that there were lots of students lined up to fight him. Back in the car, Lu Mingfei tells Nono that he and Old Tang are acquaintances. Old Tang screams out loud for them not to kill him. Just as Old Tang urges Lu Mingfei to drive down the hill, a flame appears behind the car. The boys are scared of what is behind them. Old Tang asks Nono to look behind and tell them what is at their backs. Nono tells them to look at the rear view mirror of the car. The boys freak out at the sight behind them, a lady stepping out of the fire. They zoom off in fear. The principal, Manstein, and Guldarian ask themselves what came out of the fire. They think it is sent by the dragon. The principal warns the student not to get close to it, but to shoot at long range. Bullets melt the moment they touch him. The principal urges the students to make a siege. More bullets are being fired at her, as she continues to call unto Lu Mingfei and Old Tang. Grenades are fired at her, at the instruction of the principal, yet it does not work. The Yanling he is casting becomes very great. The principal yells at everyone to get down. Soon, an explosion occurs as a result of his Yanling. Lancelot calls Chujang, informing him that there is a dragon in the school, and their ammo doesn't work against him. The worst thing is that his Yanling is a royal blaze. Chujang tells Lancelot to lay low, as his royal blaze isn't as strong as the dragon's. Chujang converses with his opponent, telling her he trusts her, but Caesar doesn't. She says she was a liar, but not anymore. Manstein calls his father, asking him to bring back the barrier, because the dragon released a dangerous flame, almost burning down the whole school. Guldarian's father tells him that the order won't work on someone like him, seeing that the dragon is first generation, one of the dragon kings. Caesar and his opponent give a phone call to a lady in a bathtub, telling her how bad the fight scene has become. The lady in the tub can't believe what they are telling her. She requests for video evidence before she believes. After the video is sent to her, she confirms that it isn't Norton but Constantine himself, claiming that Constantine is out of control and unstable at the moment because he was awoken in the wrong way and by the wrong person. Because of this, the dragon would break down soon, and it would result in a dragon meltdown, which is a storm strong enough to blow off a mountain. As she is searching for ways to combat the issue on the ground, the caller ends the call, telling her to call her back when she figures something out. Meanwhile, Old Tang, Mingfei, and Nono are hiding behind a row of pillars. Old Tang tells Mingfei that he is a hunter. Nono adds perspective to it by saying that these hunters search for mysterious things with supernatural properties that are very hard to find by an ordinary person. Old Tang confesses that there is a mysterious employer online who employed him to infiltrate the school premises, hinting to him that something special was delivered there. He shows them an image of a cracked egg. Old Tang made the crack, and the dragon crept out from it. Mingfei, in a bid to escape, asks Nono how good a dragon's sense of smell is. Nono tells him that the dragon's 5 sense organs are way more accurate than a normal human. Nono has a feeling that the dragon is chasing them, or perhaps one of them. Old Tang screams at the dragon in a bid to draw his attention towards them. Finger hears the scream and shows up. Mingfei asks why he was the one to show up instead of Caesar or Chuzhang. The dragon steadily approaches them. Finger suggests since he was just a kid on fire, maybe they should go closer to a swimming pool. As they ran towards the swimming pool, they met Caesar and his opponent on the way. After Caesar and Nono exchange pleasantries, Caesar urges Nono to go along with Mingfei to protect him from the dragon because he feels the dragon is after Mingfei. Nono requests to stay back and fight with Caesar, just like she did on the Day of Liberty, but Caesar objects, saying he wasn't nervous back then, since there weren't going to be casualties, but now it was different. After convincing her, Nono ran off to join Mingfei, Friend, and Old Tang in the swimming pool. Caesar also asks his opponent to leave. She says she can't because her teammates were still caught up in the fight. A call comes in for Caesar's opponent. The lady in the tub told her that Frigga bullets would work against the dragon. It wouldn't kill him, but it would knock him out. A series of shots were fired at the dragon, and she reacted to them. At the sight of this, the principal instructed everyone to shoot Frigga bullets at her, so she wouldn't have another opportunity to use the royal blaze. After Mingfei introduces Finger to Old Tang, they hear footsteps approaching. Old Tang and Friend ran away, while Mingfei went underwater to hide. But as soon as Mingfei couldn't hold his breath anymore, he put his head out of the water, and he was caught up in one of Lu Ming's visions. He sees someone standing ahead, and as he runs to catch up with the person turns to face him, only for him to see that the person is the dragon. The episode begins with the dragon calling Mingfei's brother. Mingfei looks up and sees a pyramid. He finally realizes he is standing in the city of bronze, and the person in front of him is the dragon. He moves back in fear, and someone appears on the scene, pushes the dragon away, and drags Mingfei away. Mingfei wakes up in the real world to see the old principal standing in front of him, telling him that he has been searching for him everywhere. The old principal takes Mingfei high up the building, telling him that the dragon has been put in a tight corner and should be killed. He shows him a bullet that can kill dragon kings. He hands the bullet over to Mingfei, telling him to shoot at the dragon the moment he gets a clear shot. Mingfei tells him he isn't skilled at doing things like this, and he urges him to shoot, just as he shoots Chuzhang and Caesar on his first day in college. He also tells him that he has been chosen to do the task. He walks away, telling him that he is an excellent dragon slayer. Old Tang and Friend are conversing about how fast they ran when they heard the footsteps approaching. As they talked, above them was the dragon changing from a boy into a full-fleshed dragon. The principal comes down to the students, informing them that they have done enough. He flies us to fight the dragon himself. He does his Yanling, and time slows down. He cuts through the body of the dragon, at the same time screaming at Mingfei to fire the bullet at the dragon. Mingfei hears a voice telling him not to be nervous but to shoot. Mingfei shoots at the dragon, and the dragon starts to lose its ability to control metals. Immediately, the principal instructs everyone to use live ammunition to kill the dragon. The dragon flies down, and everyone shoots at it. The dragon looks at Old Tang on the floor, unable to do anything because of the bullet wounds. Old Tang runs away yelling for the dragon to stop calling him brother. The students receive instructions to continue firing at the dragon. Soon the dragon dies. Old Tang runs away crying in the rain as he reminisces about himself and the dragon eating. He continues running and crying at the same time until he falls to the ground. He cries even louder this time, and soon he lets out a scream. He soon starts to bring out fire from all over his body as his eyes turn fiery. At a tavern, a man is seen discussing with the principal, telling him he should have killed Norton before he regained his memories, reminding him that it would have been easier that way. The principal says he's tired of himself and tired of being the Dragon Slayer. He says that because of his hybrid blood, he has lived for 100 years, and all his friends are dead except him and the old man he is talking to. The old man asks the principal why he likes Ming Fei so much, and the principal says it's because he sees Ming Fei as a sword capable of slaying Dragon Kings. He adds that his time is up, and in his last moments he hopes to slay all 4 Dragon Kings, including Nidhogg. He rhetorically asks why the Dragon Kings come back to life generation after generation, why they temporarily have to seal them when they could permanently put an end to them. He adds that the dragon cuts his body parts, and each body part stores every piece of information about them. If they planned on killing the Dragon King permanently, they had to do it before they had time to seal a piece of themselves. The principal continued saying that if he made Norton furious, he could turn his anger against him, turning his fury into his grave. Back at the dorm, Friend tells Ming Fei that a party was being organized to celebrate the success they had gotten in the fight. He goes on to tell him that hours after the fight, several helicopters landed on the school premises. These helicopters brought in the secret party, a group of elites, kings, and businessmen. They started to rebuild the school defenses to prevent further attacks. The friend asks Ming Fei what club he is joining today. Ming Fei says he just sent in his application to join the student union. He said his decision was influenced by Nono, who says she would protect him if he joined the student union. Someone knocks at the door, a man with Ming Fei's student union identity card. Ming Fei asks him if it is ready so early, and he tells him Nono said it should be delivered immediately. The man also says Caesar asks to notify him of a meeting in an hour. Caesar is in a meeting with the principal. The principal informs him of the city of Bronze Norton built in China. He adds that the city was beautiful for exploration. The principal says he's pleased with the Lion's Heart and the Sug for how they handled the fight the previous day, showing attributes that were pleasing to him. He mentions that he called the meeting to inform him that the student union was chosen first to go on the exploration, and they must take Ming Fei with them. Caesar says he's pleased to hear of such news, as his team would be ready to go on the mission. The episode begins with a meeting between Caesar and Ming Fei. Caesar tells Ming Fei of the mission and the training that would start. He further tells him that Nono would be his tutor. Caesar says to him that the best S-class is always chosen for the job and that the school is short of manpower. Ming Fei replied by telling him the school has 360 other freshmen aside from him. Caesar tells him that only 2 of them are selected from his class. Ming Fei says he's unwilling to go on the mission, but his classmates urged him to accept because he was S-class. Ming Fei says he came to the school because of scholarship and to go on a mission that would have casualties. Caesar tells him to drop out instead, get his memory erased, and lead a normal life like every other ordinary person, instead of being at the school and refusing to go on a mission. Caesar tells him to drop his card and leave the room. As he is about to hand over the card, Nono steps into the room, convincing him to stay with the Union, and reminds him that she would only protect him as long as he is in the Union. As a result of Nono's words, he agrees to remain in the Union and to go on the mission. Afterwards, Ming Fei is seen running through the bushes in training. He moves a blade and throws it at Caesar, but Caesar catches it in between his fingers. Ming Fei is seen at the boxing arena later on, throwing punches at a sack. Then, he goes underwater to practice. He does some shooting drills with a gun, and at night, he's seen doing some push-ups on the bed. Wearing mission clothes, Ming Fei stands looking at himself in the mirror for some time. His friend asks him why he chooses to do so when he is standing there. They converse about what happens on these mission trips, about how 2 people in love can't go underwater together. Ming Fei calls out an exception, and Finger says it has been a long time since the exception professed love publicly. Ming Fei further inquires of Friend what he is still doing in the school even after 4 years. Finger says he didn't want to miss out on the good food in the school. Ming Fei angrily shouts at his response. Finger slaps him on the cheek, and after Ming Fei quiets down, he tells him he is scared of death. Finger says that although he didn't qualify to join their elite team, he would provide support to them remotely. Ming Fei tells Finger that many times he feels he is out of line, but then he has been so good to him. Ming Fei tosses his student credit card to Friend. Friend exclaims that it was worth lots of money. Ming Fei explains to him that in case he hears that he dies during the mission trip, he should buy whatever he wants with the card before it expires. Friend continues to jump about in joy, making plans on what he is going to buy with the card. Ming Fei becomes furious at him, that he ought to be encouraging him, not rejoicing over his death, and his ability to use his card for whatever he wants. Friend tosses the card back to Ming Fei, and starts encouraging him again. A dragon flies down from a height and halts at the tip of a cliff, just in front of Norton. Norton speaks to the dragon, telling it how he misses it, and is glad to be back. The dragon afterward, standing upright, roars, causing the water body to tremble tremendously. Professor Main is seen talking to a group of students about to embark on the mission trip. He tells them they wouldn't be regarded as students anymore, but as trusted interim commissioners. He tells them they are selected because they are the best students. Mingfei rhetorically asks his colleague sitting close to him why Chuzhong wasn't a part of the elite team for the mission. The professor says their vessel is loaded with enough firepower to tackle any problems they face. Caesar tells him it's possible to encounter dragons, and the professor replies saying dragons guard the city of bronze and they would certainly fight one. He informs them that the dragon is immune to metal, and although they have a very low probability of encountering one, yet they are given 3 alchemy weapons to battle a dragon should they see one. The professor mentions that they are to carry a special bomb, enter into the city of bronze, and blow it up. The team is paired in groups. Caesar is paired with Zero, while Mingfei is paired with Nono. Nono is seen on the ship giving last-minute instructions to Mingfei. Mingfei asks if they are truly going into the Dragon King's territory to set off bombs and if they are going to meet any dragons. Nono says it's unlikely. The professor cuts in saying that the Dragon King should be hibernating now because he doesn't have his bone with him, which would have allowed him to transform. So the Dragon King would be in human form since he needs time to hibernate to enable his transformation. The professor added that the effects of the 4 monarchs throughout history are disastrous, and so Norton would need enough time to breed a new body. Nono and Mingfei dive into the water. Mingfei tells her he is scared of the dark. The professor speaks through comms telling them they are approaching a wall. He tells Mingfei to take out the card he came with. He should smear a millimeter of blood and put it in the lips of the statue in front of them, and the door would open. After Mingfei puts the blood on the statue's lips, his hand is stuck to the mouth of the statue. Nono rushes to his aid as she pulls his hand out. Terrified, and because of the tiny injury on his hand, he tries to swim away, but Nono pulls him back, consoling him that it is only a tiny injury. Suddenly, the doors begin to open, the earth beneath begins to rumble, and they both lose balance, and the scene begins with Nono standing up from the ground. They continue walking onward, looking for a root in the corner. Empty ancient statue styles are lining the wall. The air quality becomes good, as compared to before because the master has returned to his palace. The Dragon King Norton is around as he aims to restart the city. Mingfei asks the professor if it takes a long time to restart the city, and the professor says it does, and it is possible that they came late. Nono asks where she is to plant the bombs, and the professor says in the Dragon King's palace, as it is the safest place to put them, and she is to ensure she returns before the explosion. The water is clean. The professor says it allows the Dragon King to make new breeds of dragon because of its excess oxygen. He tells Mingfei to put dye into the water to contaminate it. All the purified water would then flow to the Dragon King's thin palace. If this purified water is followed, it would lead to the palace. Nono and Mingfei followed the water, which led to a tree. Nono believes it is the tree Yesheng and Aji that came before they died. They continue till they reach a point where the water stops flowing. Mingfei suggests they drop the bomb there, seeing it's where the water ends. Looking upwards, they see the statue of the Dragon King Norton. It looks like a temple of pilgrimage. Nono immediately asks Mingfei to put his mask back on. She goes a few steps backward and pushes Nono into the water. She jumps along as well. She tells him that King Norton shouldn't reside where people worship him and that there should be a drainage somewhere. The professor asks Nono if there are any discoveries via comms. She says she has little visibility and can't see so much. Soon they fall to the ground at the next level, and they find out they are in a big field. The professor asks if they see an entrance, but Nono gives no reply. She requests Mingfei's hand. He puts his hand out to her, and she grabs his hand, loses the bandage from the wound he got from sticking his hand in the statue's mouth, and uses the blood on his finger to open the bronze door underneath them. Soon the water rumbles, and they lose control. Caesar sends forth void snakes so he can see what is going on in the water. Mingfei and Nono crash into a big body of light and wake up inside a field. In the field, there is a shabby-looking house. Mingfei asks Nono if the Dragon King is poor to be living in such a house. Nono opens the door to the house and walks in. They both realize the ropes that serve as lifelines behind their back are cut. Nono says it got cut when they opened the door to the tunnel with Mingfei's blood and landed in the field. She instructs that they search the house and worry about the ropes later. Nono touched the wall and read out what was written on it, and after a while of looking, she asked that they sit. She wanted to do some thinking. Mingfei soon realizes that Nono was reliving the conversation of 2 people who sat at that same spot ages ago. She awakens from the trance and tells Mingfei that the 2 brothers once lived here, and they did lots of activities together. She tells Mingfei about her psychic powers and how she can profile people by just looking at them. Mingfei tells her it's time to detonate the bombs and head out. She calculates the time it would take them to escape back to the ship and sets the bomb timer for 45 minutes. Nono decides to take something from the room as a souvenir. As she takes a lamp, she realizes that there is no pipeline for oil transport to the house, and whoever lit the lamps in the room did that recently. Immediately, they run out of the house, heading for the wheel. Mingfei touches his blood on the door, and it opens up. They went through the bronze door, got out, and realized their lifeline was gone. Nono says the water pressure is decreasing, and it isn't strong enough to wash the ropes away, that someone would have picked up their lifelines. Soon, the water starts to rumble again. Nono says the city is in self-destruct and the drainage is open. As the chaos intensifies, Mingfei opens the bronze door again with his blood, and they both go in, entering the field once again. They realize the field is also going into destruction, so they try to find other ways to escape. They find another door, Mingfei opens it, and they go through it. On the ship, Caesar and the rest of the team worry over Nono and Mingfei. The void snakes they sent earlier aren't seeing them. They contemplate sending a team of divers into the water, but Professor Main fears the Dragon King has already awakened. He suggests that if after an hour they do not see any signs of them, they could risk sending out a team of divers. They begin to run out of oxygen, and Mingfei screams out for Fingal to help with the map out of the water. The episode starts with Professor Main screaming. He holds his head with his hands, telling the other people on the ship that his brain has been taken over by a very powerful force, and he has been used as a signal relay station. Fingal presses his computer hurriedly, trying to figure out a way to help Professor Main. Caesar tells Fingal to hurry up, as Professor Main is slowly losing it. As a result of the self-destruction of the Bronze City, its original escape route is changed to a different. Fingal finds an escape route. He tells Mingfei and Nono to hurry, as the escape route is about to change. Fingal complains he can't hold on for long. He tells Caesar he has only F-level access, and he needs higher access to continue. The professor says he has B-level access, and Fingal could use it. Fingal finds a better way. He hacks into the Academy's website to gain S-level access. With the aid of his newfound access, he can lead Nono and Mingfei. Zero suggests to Caesar that the Dragon King is causing the water to heat up, that he is moving in the water, and is hunting them down. With the professor inactive because his mind has been manipulated, Caesar becomes head of the team with Fingal's permission. Caesar goes on to announce to the crew that he is the new captain, and also to make sure everything is running smoothly. There is a rumbling sound on the ship. Torpedoes Bay has been penetrated by the Dragon King. The Dragon King attacks and kills a crew member. As a result of the penetration by the Dragon King, all 3 warheads get destroyed. The Dragon King continuously assaults their bottom position and remains unseen to Caesar and the rest. Caesar realized soon that even before they started the whole operation, the Dragon King was lying beneath their ship. He immediately calls for them to attack the dragon. The dragon chases them with so much speed. Ahead of them, on a cliff, they see someone standing there. Zero shows Caesar the person, and they conclude that it wasn't the Dragon King chasing them all along. The Dragon King Norton is standing right in front of them, with fire all over his body. Norton calls out to his dragon servant. The dragon comes out of the water, and he sits on it. He touches its body, sending fire around it. The dragons go into the water, and dramatically, with great fire coming out of the water, come right back up again. The dragon servant finally blending with Norton. Fingal keeps dishing out instructions to Nono and Mingfei underwater. He warns that soon the Bronze City will be locked out permanently, and they need to swim faster to avoid this. Nono stops when she sees the dead body of Ye Sheng. She realizes that he gave Aki his nose mask to enable have a double dose of oxygen needed to reach the surface. Nono uncovers a lid, and she sees something inside a box. She realizes that Ye Sheng recovered it from the Bronze City, but Aki couldn't carry it along because she couldn't carry 2 things. They finally leave the body and continue heading in the way Fingal pointed. Noni feels Fingal made a miscalculation about the correct exit, but Mingfei says that if Ye Sheng is found along this way, it truly is the exit. They eventually find the gatekeeper. Mingfei runs out of blood because of prolonged exposure to water on his hand. Noni stops a huge block from crushing both of them as she holds it out with both hands. Mingfei tries to cut himself with his knife, but the knife slips off his hands. He then holds his breath and takes off his mask, draws blood from his mouth, and opens the doors with it. On shore, Fingal drives the ship to take up Noni and Mingfei. As they approach the shore, the Dragon King pursues after the ship. The ship loses some of its engines in the chase. Since Mingfei took off his mask before taking out his blood, he has to share Noni's mask as they approach shore. The pressure is great, and their diving suits can't enable both of them to swim to shore. Noni offers to give Mingfei her mask, claiming she is an experienced diver than Mingfei. Fingal sends a diving bell to rescue Noni and Mingfei in the water. Chu Zhang comes onto the scene in a helicopter to rescue them, and to serve as backup. Nono and Mingfei are underwater. Mingfei uses a respirator to breathe, while Nono uses a diving tech suit that has oxygen in it and can make her breathe while underwater. Nono tells Mingfei to turn around so she can change. She removes the tech suit and gives it to Mingfei and challenges him that she can hold her breath underwater and she has no need for the respirator. Mingfei wears the suit and thinks to himself how comfortable the tech suit fits his body. Nono can't speak so she doesn't inhale water into her lungs. She speaks to him in sign language that the rocks have cracked and he should leave the place. Nono gives a sign for Mingfei to follow him. A bomb explodes and releases a poison gas. Mingfei sees Nono is without the respirator and worries over the safety. Nono seeing the bomb made the rocks above them start falling, and she also stands the chance of breathing in the poison gas. Caesar, Zero, and Fingal are on a ship plotting to kill the Dragon King when Chu Zhang calls to assist. They release a diving bell into the water that will rescue Nono and Mingfei from the bomb explosion. The diving bell has a laser beam that can make them spot the diving bell while deep into the water. A plan is made to target the Dragon King and eliminate him. They plan to use a torpedo to strike him while he doesn't move from the spot. Fingal worries that a weapon like that can't have any significant effect on the Dragon King. Caesar goes on to explain that the torpedo has a generator that makes it move at a very high speed, similar to that of a plane, to not be affected by the resistance that being underwater will do to it. Fingal gives a possibility of the plan not being feasible, saying that once the torpedo has been launched, it cannot be guided, making it impossible to hit Dragon King. Dragon King must be within 100 meters of launch and must not move for him to be hit. Caesar decides to fight and tells them to wait for the instructions for them to strike the torpedo, while he goes to the outside of the ship and begins the fight with the Dragon King. Zero warns him that since he is going to be too close to the launch site of the torpedo, he shouldn't cover his ears when it is launched. If not, it may destroy his eardrum. On getting outside the ship, Dragon King appeared at the scene while Zero went to the manual launch room. Caesar covers his eyes with a piece of clothing and begins to fire bullets at the Dragon King, knowing it would not affect him. He does this to distract and provoke him to get very angry and also to prevent him from moving to be hit by the torpedo strike. Zero reaches the control room and prepares to strike. Caesar gives the command to move towards the Dragon King. The Dragon King, sensing it, decides to dive into the water when Chu Zhang is seen in the sky and strikes fire from the sky towards the Dragon King. To prevent himself from being hit, the Dragon King fired back and there was an explosion mid-air that was too bright. It causes temporary blindness to everyone within the area, and when the Dragon King cannot see, Zero launches the torpedo, which hits him directly, and he sinks into the water. Chu Zhang takes his leave from the site of the fight. Zero comes to meet Caesar outside the ship and discovers that the torpedo launching affected his eardrum. Though he can still hear, his hearing ability has reduced. Nono and Mingfei see the diving bell sent by Fingal and head towards it. On arriving there, Nono placed her hand on the diving bell. The sensor recognized her and opened up. Nono playfully pushes Mingfei in, and when she is about to enter, Dragon King's tail goes in through her body and kills her. Mingfei stands in shock and remembers the past they have shared. He cries in a loud voice. Mingfei cries as Nono is dead and is killed by the Dragon King's tail, which was driven through her heart. He hits the door of the diving bell to open, but it refuses to open. He thinks to himself how he is not ready to live without her, and she should not die. He remembers one of their past conversations while commanding Nono not to die. The weight of Dragon King drags Nono away from the diving ship. Mingfei is with Mingze at the seaside with them on a wooden ride. Mingze's legs are in the water while Mingfei is lying on his back facing up crying. Mingze tells him that he is alone in the diving bell while Nono has lost 90% of his blood and is becoming more unconscious. Mingze tells him that in the vision he is experiencing, time moves differently. Time is faster in the real world, while time is slow in the vision realm. She tells him that he still has a chance to save Nono from dying as he has the power to save her. Mingze asks Mingfei if he has goals in life. Mingfei says even if he has, it is none of her business. She tells him she could help if she hears what he has to say. She tells him that she is not an ordinary person, and asks why he chose Cassel as it was a big risk to him. Mingfei says that everyone slays dragons, while his only reason is to convince his parents that he is a promising child. He passed the 3E exams and doesn't know how the S grade was judged. He says relying on Mingze helped him to unlock the map of the Bronze City. Mingze tells him that good fortune follows some people, and he shouldn't have joined the student union, which made them send him to where he is. Mingfei says that 10 years from now, nobody will see how important he is. Nobody will remember what he did today, and you feel like you are redundant. He dazes every day because he has no sense of existence and he does not know what to do. People say he does not value himself. He says that even if he is stomped on the head, he can't stand up because he doesn't know what to stand up to or what to think about. He says everything changed when a girl came and made him attractive in front of everyone. He says he enjoyed the feeling of being attractive. Mingze tells him she did it because she pities him and has gone through what he was facing at the time. She says she did it out of pity and not because she loves him. Mingfe shouts at Mingze saying he was fished out from the mess he was in and he doesn't want to go back there. He says anyone he cares about either doesn't understand him or they treat him like a monkey. He tells Mingze that the only person who doesn't see him as wrong is Nono, and she is dying. He says she can't die. Mingze says he doesn't want revenge on the world, and she understands and she will help him, but there is a condition he must fulfill. She explains the contract is similar to the contract with the devil. A person asks something from the devil, and when the devil does it, the person's soul belongs to the devil. Mingze says their contract is similar to the devil's contract. She tells him that he can only call her 4 times to make a wish, or when he feels alone in the world, the contract expires and his life belongs to her. Mingfe says the asking price is too high and inquires what Mingze can do. She says she can do almost everything and can even get rid of the flaming red dragon king. Mingfe agrees to Mingze's asking price. Mingze says she is surprised he accepts the heavy price and unlocks powers to him. The power of the gathering increases his spiritual power when using the spirit of speech, and prohibition makes the opponents of air unable to use his speech. She tells him the spirit is Ling Ling, and he can only use it for a short period. She says before he had a wish, wishing Nono not to die, but now he has the wish and the power for her not to die. Mingze tells him to face the sea, and she pushes him from behind and he falls into the sea. Mingfe returns to the diving bell and speaks the closed diving bell to open. He goes to Nono's dead body, removes the tech suit wears her, breaks the claw in his tail, uses his power, and tells her not to die. He ties the rope connecting the diving bell to the ship to Nono and pulls the rope so that she can be pulled up. Fingal sees the thug of the rope on the monitor screen and alerts Zero and Caesar about the pull. Excited, Caesar and Zero alert everybody to keep pulling the rope. Mingze tells Mingfei if he is ready to fight as Nono is safe. Mingze tells him that a box that Yesheng found has 7 deadly weapons that can be used to destroy Dragon King: arrogance, fury, laziness, greedy dreams, police meal, lust. Mingfe fights the Dragon King and prohibits him from talking. The fight started, and Mingfe threw the box and 3 of the 7 deadly weapons, arrogance, police meal, and lust, are used to fight the battle. He uses the police meal weapon to strike the first blow, then gathers the other weapons and uses them on him continuously. Mingze gives Mingfei the ability to move freely in the water. The episode resumes with the battle between Norton and Mingfei. Mingze tells Mingfei that dragons don't get tired. Mingfei affirms and says that the dragon only hides till he's ready to deliver his next blow. He continues conversing with Mingze about all the things on the inside of him. Mingze encourages Mingfei to keep on fighting unless all his companions above water will die. She tells him the time to seal the speech is near, and he should remember that the Norton body on the dragon's head is the key. Mingfei says he has gotten it, but he needs to find the Dragon King first. He goes full field in the fight. He can't handle it anymore. Mingze tells him to focus, to find a reason inside him why he is fighting, and to draw strength from there. She tells him he can do it, and that she believes in him. Mingfei remembers all the people he's fighting for and finds inner strength in that. Soon everything stabilizes, and he can finally find focus. Mingfei finds the dragon and charges towards it. He can get within sword breath of Norton's body. Soon he realizes that Norton is his friend Old Tang. He loses control for a moment because of the discovery. Norton gets a hold of him and tries to strangle him. Out of desperation, Mingfei clenches a sword and drives it through Norton's back. Mingfei falls off while saying he is sorry to Old Tang. He reminisces on past times with Old Tang while he cries. Mingfei says Old Tang's eyes are looking at him, but he feels he isn't looking at him, but may just desire to see the sky. On the ship, a doctor is examining Nono's body, while Caesar is asking why she is still in a coma. The doctor assures him that Nono is fine. Nono wakes up eventually, and everybody is jubilant about it. Caesar hugs her, while he sobs on her neck. The whole crew claps their hands for her recovery. Mingfei is seen on the shore. Zero leaves the ship to help him get back on board. A girl is seen who fires an alchemy bullet straight to the face of Norton. This bullet destroys him. She tells someone on the other end of the receiver that the mission is completed and Mingfei survived. Members of the crew talk within themselves, asking where Chuzhang is. One of them responds telling the other that he is healing, waiting for the next command. Back at the school, the principal urges Mingfei to drink the black tea in the cup. He also assures him that he will get full marks in all the practical courses in the semester. He educates Mingfei about the Dragon Kings. Mingfei asks the principal why the Dragon Kings look so human. The principal replies that he is a Dragon King. He goes further to tell his story, and why he would soon be leaving. He he tells him further that Constantine hatched early and sexualized herself to help awaken Norton. Norton stops being old Tang the moment he is awakened, and the dragons do not hold on to the affections, as these affections burden them. Mingfei asks the principal why he keeps dragons a secret. The principal tells him it's complicated, but the most important reason is that no one wants to shake people's understanding of the world. Humans have reproduced for years, holding on to their beliefs. If these beliefs are broken, no one knows what will happen eventually. The principal hands Mingfei a letter from his mother, which he reads while sobbing. The principal adds that according to the school rules, he is to keep the information about the mission confidential. He asks Mingfei why he recovered quickly from the fight, unlike Nono. As Mingfei starts to talk, Mingzi warns him to keep quiet about his pact with Norton, but the principal says he believes in Mingfei, and he doesn't have to tell him what happened. At the dorm, Friend is surprised Mingfei had tea with the president of the academy. On the other hand, Mingfei is angry that Friend wrote a lot about Caesar on the school's website, instead of about him. He tells Friend to delete it immediately. Someone knocks on the door, Mingfei goes to open it, and sees Caesar standing at the door. Caesar is asking for sugar, as he is cooking in the opposite room. Mingfei and Friend are excited to be of help to him. They both realize that Chujang and Caesar live together in the opposite room, and they cook together. Nono comes to Mingfei's room and gives him chocolate. She shows Friend where to get lots of them, and Friend leaves. Nono and Mingfei continue talking until she tells him she's leaving to go to bed. Someone sends a courier from abroad to Mingfei. He opens it, and it's a letter on a phone from Mingze. She tells him to reply directly on the phone. He tried to smash the phone on the floor, but he kicked against the idea.